So one of the other arguments I've heard, which I always try to steel man arguments and try to see things from other people's perspective. The North
Sure.
Korea book I did, Dear Reader, was the North Korean perspective. The argument was you and David are basically taking these kids from their mom, which I don't see how that's really different from, like, let's suppose adoption, in which case a child is being taken from their biological mom. Is that something that kind of gave you pause?
Well, first off, I agree with you in that I don't see much of a difference. There's all sorts of reasons that kids get adopted. Sometimes, a parent comes to, 9 months pregnancy and then just, I can't do this. And then they give up the child. That would be giving up the child. Sometimes the mother could be a crack addict. Sometimes the child is abandoned. I mean, there's a litany of
Yeah.
really, there's things that we can't even think of that are so horrific probably that lead kids into horrible situations. And then these miraculous, families that come in and save these kids. I didn't expect to see a real pushback on the IVF thing because this is something that's been done for years. Regardless of sexuality. I mean, there are men that can't get a woman pregnant.
Yeah.
There are women that their eggs are no good. There are couples that have both of those problems. There are sometimes, just the freak accidents. One of the interesting things that you'll find when we were doing this, we did a lot of the IVF stuff over COVID. Our doctor told us he saw more miscarriages in the 2 years of COVID than he had ever seen in his 30-year career.
Wow.
With no scientific evidence. There was nothing he could point to in looking at the women's bodies that said there was any difference. So I'm not saying that has anything to do with vaccines. He didn't say that to me either. But the point is that maybe just the stress of life led to all sorts of things where women weren't getting pregnant. We just don't know. So I didn't expect the pushback on the IVF thing as much. I think there are interesting ethical, and I'm happy to talk about them if you want, ethical issues around IVF and where does life begin and what do you do with the discarded embryos. These are all things we should talk about. That also is the irony to some of the people that were, and again, most of it was just anonymous trolls that I don't pay attention to. So when you called me that day, and I could hear it in your voice, the way you presented this, like you genuinely felt, oh, how upsetting this is that on such a good, wonderful, loving day that you'd be getting such hate. And it's like, I don't see most of it, honestly. I have the filter on my Twitter thing, so I really only see the verified people. I don't really see the trolls. I don't look at YouTube comments. So I don't really see this, and it wasn't like my email was blowing up from my own fans being like, oh, you're gay, now you've pushed us too far, but there are ethical issues around IVF for sure, and when life begins and all of those things. We felt that was the road that was better for us because we wanted the same egg donor. So we have one egg donor, and then it's both of our sperm for these two different kids. So the kids will be biologically connected, and we felt that was important. But everyone has their own measures. And look, that leads to all sorts of interesting debates related to science and the importance of the womb. And we're going to have in our lifetime, there will be artificial wombs. There's just no doubt about it. This is coming whether you like it or not. And we can, again, have the discussions about humans playing God and all of those things. But I don't know that that's what this was really about for the people that were, say, not thrilled with me.